Good afternoon, this is Gretchen Clearwater with Channel 4 News. Tragedy struck over the weekend as the CEO of indie sensation Mythward Entertainment, Corey Kemper, was found in a ditch after a caffeine-fueled psychotic rampage. I'm here with newly appointed CEO Brenton Latimer. Brenton, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Brenton, can you tell us what caused this unfortunate event to occur?
Honestly, Gretchen, ego and hubris. We were in a very troubled development cycle for a very long time. I mean, 16 factions for an indie studio, that's pretty ambitious to say the least.
Did Corey's psychotic breakdown fuel a change in direction for the company?
Frankly, yes. Under Corey's reckless leadership, we would have been sent down a never-ending death spiral of dead.
What can we talk about in terms of the game development? Are you still moving forward with Conquest of Eldinar?
Conquest of Eldinar is a title that should have been dropped long ago. It was only held up by the dreams and ambitions of a narcissistic psychopath. Under my tenure as CEO of Mythward Entertainment, we're going to be transforming the company into a truly profitable enterprise that focuses on maximizing shareholder value and increasing our stock revenue.
Fuck out of here, fucking worm! I am Conquest of Eldinar! We change nothing! Conquest of Eldinar is gonna come out! I am Mythward Entertainment! I am the indie game dev industry! I cannot be stopped! I will not be stopped! I am God! Do you hear me? This game is coming out no matter what! With 16 factions and multiplayer! Yeah!
All right, now that that's taken care of, let's get down to business. 2025 was a little bit of a rough one. I mean, we've always had like a direction here at Mythward moving forward. You know, we know what we want to do, but knowing how to do it is not always easy, especially when you're working with the resources that we're working with. It doesn't help that like the start of 2025 was furthering the official transition from the 2D version of Conquest of Eldinar that used to be and the 3D version that we have now. You know, at the end of the year last year, it was more or less just a prototype. At the end of 2024, you know, we had, when we showed you guys like the previews of that, it was really just like two little micro levels that were experimenting with, you know, this new game design philosophy and just kind of hamstringing our 2D systems into that 3D version of the game. But, you know, the amount of bugs that cropped up as a result of that, as you guys could imagine, I mean, game dev is complicated. And when you're working with one programmer who has to take what used to be a 2D game and transition all of his code and all of his systems into a 3D RTS, I mean, just think about like how much that complicates like pathing, how much it complicates the AI. You know, before with the tug of war RTS like it was before, it was very simple to just, okay, hey, enemy, march left or march right. It's not that complicated to get your units to operate on a map terrain like that. But now that we have 3D maps with expansions and these different like map mechanics and the battle positioning is a 360, you know, much more space to position units in battles. You know, it's really complicated, like how do formations translate into that, you know. So it really just kind of shook the foundation of everything we had built for the past couple of years. You know, we might as well have started off on a clean slate at the start of this year, you know, with the exception of, you know, we still had a decent amount of assets, you know, in terms of characters. But outside of that, I mean, it was more or less a clean slate. You know, as far as clean slates go, I think we did a pretty good job. You know, we got 3 maps done this year. I learned how to 3D model at the start of this year or whatever. That was not something that I knew how to do. I've always been a 2D artist. You know, that's why the original inception of the game was, you know, leaning on my strengths as a 2D artist or whatever to just stick with that. But then we just got obsessed with this idea of moving the game over to 3D. And so I had to learn Blender. And hey, I, you know, had multiple months here where I just grinded out multiple structures in one small sitting. So I think we did a pretty good job. We took a couple of swings with a few different like marketing attempts. I got I tried out the Flash devlogs. We tried streaming again. We got out a few like shorts and like comedy sketches or whatever, but overall, like, not a crazy amount of growth on YouTube. Not a crazy amount of growth of wish lists, not a crazy amount of growth on anything really. This was like a really buckle down year. It was also kind of demoralizing that we didn't get to go to PAX this year. We decided that it was smarter to invest our resources instead of going into PAX, save that money that, which by the way, like we're still to this day, 5 years later for me, a studio that has generated like zero profit. Like there is no funding here. But funding is, I work a part-time job slinging kettle corn at a mall to customers. Like I go and I into customer service, and then I come home every single day and I grind on this nonstop. Like anytime you guys don't see me on this camera, I guarantee you I am in that bedroom grinding Conquest of Eldinar. It's my entire life's purpose is this. This is the only thing that I do. This sling and doing that kettle corn thing helps me work on this, without funding. And so setting aside, saving my own personal finances, me and Ziad or whatever, instead of going to PAX to hopefully try to hire some help, because just the amount of work that this game is with everything that we want to do with this game, which we're extremely confident in our product. We're extremely confident in our game that this concept has legs. It's combining and blending multiple different genres, action and RTS, into one package that has such a unique world and setting and all the different factions and whatnot. Like I know this is going to work. I know it is, but to actually execute on that and get it done turns out is pretty damn rough. It's pretty damn hard. I'm going to turn off the heater 1 second. Probably should have thought about that before I got filming. Yeah, good boy. And so, yeah, we went all in on development, saved all of our money, and spent half of the year trying to get some more developers on Team Mythward. That isn't really like a thing that works. In every like 50 like people you interact with, like one of them is like a serious person. You are not serious people. I have been to, probably hundreds of indie game developer events, trying to meet people and network and try to get people to work on this crazy game with me or whatever. But, volunteer agreements and revenue share agreements, even equity. Hell, we even saved money and offered people money. We tried to literally pay people. And even then, it still just isn't enough. Like every attempt that we made this year to try and get somebody to join our team and to join us on this, resulted in cataclysmic failure. So why didn't we go to PAX? I guess that money would have been better spent going to PAX, because it didn't really do anything. No matter how hard we tried, we just couldn't get anybody to really stick with it. I think people get really attracted at the idea of working on a big fantasy RTS, and they see all my art and they see our game and they see the music and they see the characters and they're like, oh wow, that sounds like so much fun. That's so cool. Oh, I want to be an indie game developer or whatever. I want to work from home. I want to be part of a startup studio in Washington or whatever. Like I want to do all these things. And then they're there for like a week, like 2 weeks. And it turns out game dev is real fucking boring. It's really fucking boring.
You think you do, but you don't.
It's not all fun and games. It's not this romance, the most beautiful job ever. It is you sitting in your room, gaining weight, eating Doritos, losing sleep. Your skin is turning whiter. You got 17 more bags under your eyes, and you're up till like 7 a.m. and you're smashing your head into a wall over another bug. You're organizing file structures. You're learning some new software and it all looks like a foreign language to you. Like it is not fun half the time, but that is the real shit right there. That's what it actually takes to make video games. And most people are not willing to do that. They like the idea of it, but in reality, they don't got what it takes. They don't.
You think you do, but you don't.
You know, so to this day, I really have my core crew of me and Lindley, our other artist, and Ziad, our programmer, and Brenton, which helps us on the film production side. So with those 4 people, we're doing everything we can to make this game happen as soon as possible, but we're not willing to compromise our quality standards and put something out that is not ready yet and that is not reaching the level of excellence we know that you guys expect. And we want to actually compete in this industry. And in order to do that, we need more time to cook on this thing. I think that brings me to what I really want to talk about today, which is our plans for 2026 and moving forward. Mythward Entertainment, Conquest of Eldinar. How are we actually going to get this thing done before we all die of old age? Here's how we're going to do it. I've come up with a plan. I've spent this all of my December scheduling out what I call the 16-month plan. It's actually 17 months because I literally could not squeeze in all of that content in 16 months unless I want to be awake for 18 hours a day. So what I call the 16-month plan that all 4 of us, that we have on that core team are going to be working on every single week for the next 16 months, constantly working on features and content and videos and whatnot to get this game done as soon as humanly possible and out on early access so you guys can finally, buy it, give us your money, download it, play it, and have a grand time. Let's go into some details on that. So for me, my speciality, I'm like the character guy, so I got to do the characters. I got a lot of characters to paint. I got a lot of animations to do. But, the most important thing that I need to be doing for this next 16 months, maps. It's maps. It's playable maps. Because we've mostly been working on the vertical slice, the gameplay for the past year or two, getting that pathing and the combat and all that working. Maps just have never really been a priority. That's more of a content thing. All these characters could fight in a gray box room for all we care, right? Well, that's not going to cut it for a full release. We actually need playable maps. So every faction in the game needs 3 maps. And we're not talking the 2D maps of the past, a bunch of cute little illustrations for me. We're talking full 3D maps. And I want to avoid using asset store props as much as possible. I want to, handcraft as many trees and rocks and bridges and statues and buildings or whatever map, whatever props that map might need. I want to handcraft as much of that as humanly possible. So I'm going to create pretty much a new map one new map every month. I have to create a new map every single month from now until the end of our development road if we are to meet our development goals in time. So I'm going to be doing maps like crazy. We need 1 large map per faction, which is a 3v3. We need 1 normal map per faction, which is a 2v2, and then we need 1 siege map per faction, where you would, in the campaign, you'll attack the enemy's capital. You'll attack the enemy's capital to finally destroy them and conquer their lands and kind of seal that part of the campaign up so that we can move on to attacking the next faction. So that's what I'm working on. Lindley, she's working on all of the 3D models. She's also doing a lot of concept art. She's doing the 3D models for the structures and whatnot. If I have to do characters and maps, well, then I'm going to make sure that she's doing props for those maps and the buildings for the factions to ensure that we have some symbiosis between, the 2 artists, the 2 little artists that could work in back to back to make the best looking RTS of all time. Absolutely. Objectively, there is no debate about that. And Ziad is working on getting all of that functioning. I mean, what is a game? It's a game without an actual working code base. It's a pretty looking pile of shit is what it is. So he's going to work on the features that we have to get in there, because we're talking about an actual release. We're not talking about skirmishes. We're talking about an actual release. We need functional campaigns. We need multiplayer. We need to actually get the siege game mode working. We need the game to be we need the game to be functional, not to be riddled with bugs. We need to optimize it. We need to add in controller support and, test it for Steam Deck or something. I mean, we gotta, and not to mention, in my personal opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, in the comments down below, but I think that one of our most important features that we need to ship with is co-op campaigns. Who doesn't want to run like a Mario Kart Double Dash. Is it a deep cut? That's a deep cut. A Mario Kart Double Dash where, oh, you choose, Aranor and I choose Molten Legion, and we both run a campaign together. We each play our own faction, and we work across the map together and fight in these 2v2 battles, throughout a campaign. I've learned this lesson before, right? I learned this with the Kickstarter back in 2023. You can make the greatest game in the world, but if nobody knows about it, then nobody's going to buy it. Marketing is a huge thing. Why do you think companies invest so much money into it? Yeah, marketing. It's not going great for us right now, because here's the thing. There's kind of like this whole, I don't know, like a philosophy, not to get too deep into it here, but to just kind of put it lightly. So we can do like the low effort stuff. Like I could create shorts and I can stream and I can do that. But then like it's low effort stuff. There's already millions and bajillions of videos of other people also making low effort stuff on the internet. And we will just get buried with the rest of it, finding discoverability, that route of just pumping out low effort content all the time. Not only are we not finding much success doing that, but that's just slowing the game down even more. It slows down our development by having to make that content. And so then we put in some effort into making actually like what we think to be a decent video, like the Halloween special or some of our other various sketch comedies or whatever. But even then, those videos only do like, we did a couple of video essays earlier. It's like, oh, okay, maybe a couple hundred views, maybe 1,000 or 2. It's like, and what is this? What's the wish list conversion rate for Conquest of Eldinar? What are these things really doing for it? What is it doing for our IP and the Eldinar IP, like in terms of its, recognizability? Nobody knows the hell Eldinar is, none of this is really helping all that much. Well, before we pull the plug on doing any kind of marketing in the short term for our game and our channel, we have one last trick up our sleeve. We are making a fully animated short film called The Hatchling. This film takes place in the Eldinar universe. It features the hero unit from the Ch'Turg faction, and you guys will be introduced to his character, and you will go on an adventure with him, a journey in his shoes. Right now, the storyboard's clocking in around 14 minutes or so. So we're spending months and months and months of our life animating this film. Me and Lindley, 2 people. That's it. There's not an animation studio. There's 2 people inside of a game studio who are trying to make a game who are also making an animated movie on top of that. So yeah, have I mentioned that we're crazy? We're absolutely batshit fucking nuts for attempting any of this, but that's Mithward Enemy Gamer, motherfucker! That's Mithward Entertainment, let's go! So yeah, anyways, it's a really big undertaking to create this film. I'm doing so many character art sprites, and Brenton is editing it and doing all the post-processing. I mean, this is essentially, why are we doing this, right? This is essentially, it's my final effort to kind of unlock the answer of, have our marketing efforts failed because of half measures, or have our marketing efforts failed because it's impossible for somebody to be a startup nowadays? You gotta get some other streamer or something that already has an audience to to send your game to or something, and then they'll promote the game for you. Maybe we're wasting too much time on this YouTube channel. Maybe we're wasting too much time trying to market our own game. Maybe we should just have other people do it for us. But I'm not, I want at least one more attempt at making something which I would not call a half measure. This is a full measure. The Hatchling is full bore, full send, kick ass, create art, make an awesome film. That is what The Hatchling is. You guys will get that in a few months, where we have to schedule that in to work alongside the game development to ensure that we can release the game, soonish. So getting back on topic to the whole game thing, I think that if for anyone who's paying attention, you're paying attention to the map count that I'm discussing, you're paying attention to the number of maps, you're 3 per faction or whatever. And I said, I need to make 15 maps. There's the whole 16-month plan, so on and so forth. I guess that brings me to my biggest announcement of this entire video. For anyone who is really interested in Conquest of Eldinar and playing it as soon as possible, for anyone who is invested in this game's future, I have a very important thing to tell you today. So we plan on launching the early access next year. I'll get into the release date in a minute, but we plan on launching the early access next year. We're going to launch with 6 factions. 3 of which you guys already know: the Human Kingdom of Aerenor, the Orcs of the Molten Legion, and the Undead Lichborn of Mordoon. These factions, you guys have already seen a lot of them in our behind-the-scenes trailers and previews, but there are 3 more factions coming in that early access launch as well. And I think it's about time that you guys know what those other 3 factions are going to be. So without further ado, I present to you faction number 4 coming to Conquest of Eldinar. No surprise here, the Chaturag. These lizard men are the dinosaur riding savage barbarian faction for Conquest of Eldinar. They don't harvest gold, they eat meat. Meat is their resource. You get to play as T-Rexes, Velociraptors, barbarians, ritualists, and I love their hero unit. The structures that these guys have, absolutely insane. Wait till you see what we're going to do with those. Faction number 5, the first of 4 elf factions coming in the game at some point. The Renahan. This is our take on feudal Japan. It's not only a samurai feudal Japan inspired faction or whatever, but it's also an elven faction. So we have elven samurai, elven ninjas, elven sages and whatnot. We're combining these different aesthetics to come up with a very unique faction. This faction has a very unique, balanced gameplay. It's all about balance, right? And their aesthetics are super cool, super inspired. The Kitsune is a very fun unit. The stuff that their samurai can do with like the different elements, like the wind and his katana and all this, is going to be a super fun faction. Last but not least, the 6th and final faction for the early access launch of Conquest of Eldinar. One more elven faction, and that is the classic, the tried and true, the Equendos. These are our wood elves. If you love archery, you're going to love the Equendos. They are the archery faction. Druids, animals, the forest. And so, yeah, that's our 6 factions that we're going to launch with. And that means you guys will be exploring elven forests and Japanese cherry blossom spire canyons and deep dinosaur-filled jungles and the swamps of Mordoon with the undead. And yeah, that's what we're going to launch with. But in order to create all 6 of these factions with all 15 of the maps that we need in order for us to play with these factions in an actual campaign, with co-op, with multiplayer, this is going to take at least 16 months. It's going to take at least 16 months, probably 17 months. And we're going to have to work every single week, constantly, cannot miss a single day of development for well over the next 365 days of development for me. So you're not going to see much out of me. If I'm in a video and you guys get to see my face, I'm doing something wrong, because I should be at my computer painting animated movies and characters and building worlds and writing character scripts and balancing and just being the general Sigma male that I am. Yeah. But if you guys are following the timeline, I guess, unfortunately, this means that the absolute earliest we could possibly get, give or take, because at the end of that 16 months, we will need at least, if not more, at least 3 months or whatever, purely spent on polish and bug testing and optimization. So when you guys get the game, it's not a broken mess. You want a working, fun game that is relatively balanced and it doesn't have a bunch of visual bugs and runs faster than 15 frames per second, right? You want that. I want you to want that. I want you to give me a positive review on Steam, or my life is a failure. So in order for us to do that, we're going to need, at least 19 months. Not 16 months, more like 19, maybe even 20. Who knows? The point is we're looking at Q3 for 2027. That is the earliest that we could possibly get this game out in early access, but that is what we are officially working towards. We are that's the good news of today. Bad news is 2027, Q3, later next year. Oh my God, this is taking forever. But the good news is that it is happening. It is in fact happening. We are all working very hard, extremely hard, to make sure that happens on time. When I'm telling you, I guess I really have nothing else to say other than, if you were hoping for a demo, which we failed to deliver last year, probably, maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Give us a couple more months of development. Let's see how we're doing with features. Let's see how we're doing with the content. Let's make sure that we're on top of this. And there's a possibility around PAX, which we will go to this year, by the way. We will go to it. There's a possibility that around PAX, we could, you know, same, you know, the hatchling is coming out. Maybe we get a demo out too. I'd love more than anything to go to PAX and be like, oh yeah, you had fun playing our game at our booth today. Go home and install the demo. Go home and play it. Wishlist it on Steam. Do it, or I'll find your family. You know, this would be a great thing for us to have, and you know, great marketing resource, and finally get some, you know, get those wish lists up and make sure that our game doesn't flop on day one. I have nothing else to say. I have nothing else to say to you, you people, but thank you for following our game all these years. Thank you for following a development. And if you can just hang in there for this one last stretch to early access, I mean, then there's the stretch after that, which is the stretch to 1.0. You know, I presume you guys want your other 10 factions that you were promised, you know. And I know what order those are coming out into, by the way, but we're going to save some surprises for the future and not, you know, blow it all in this video. So yeah, we're going to get this game out in 2027. Well, anyways, thank you guys for watching today's video. I appreciate it. I hope you guys got some information, and I hope you guys had a great 2025, but 2026 is going to be awesome. I will be sharing teasers and sneak peeks on our Discord, which if you haven't joined already, you should join. That sneak peeks channel right there, I'm going to be posting stuff every single week. I really have no reason not to. Like, I promise you, I'm working on it every single day for the foreseeable future, and I will share, you know, screenshots of the maps and the characters and stuff that I'm working on constantly, and I'll get the other members of the team to try and share some of the stuff that they're working on too on occasion. But yeah, I think that's it for now. I'll catch you guys next time, and I'll see you guys at launch for Eldinar.
Brenton, it's done!
Do I press the red button?